Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you Jakub Voříšek, President of Local Committee of Bratislava, IAESTE Slovakia. My name is Tono and welcome to the first episode of podcast. Okay, Jakub, first question. Why Nigeria? Out of all places on earth, why did you choose Nigeria?
Well, firstly, the first option I chose was actually China, but there was always this thing in my head because I saw there's this opportunity or like this option to go to Nigeria that I would choose it, but I didn't. It wasn't my first choice. I always love to watch those documentaries about life in Africa and how they live there, and I always had this kind of like this philosophy that I shouldn't complain so much because I know that people have it worse than me, but I didn't really believe it before I came actually to Nigeria. So to really like to manifest this philosophy, actually I needed to go there, and since I didn't get chosen for China, I actually went for Nigeria as the second option.
Okay, so as you said that you were always thinking that you shouldn't complain as much, did you know what you were really getting into? How much did you know about the Nigeria before you came there?
Actually, nothing really. It's I kind of knew that probably things aren't that like that close to our country, let's say, but I didn't really know what to expect, and it was really surprising coming there and to seeing the things firsthand. I the first the first pictures that I have in my mind now are like comparable when I have been to Brazil, but it's nothing really. It's nothing close to it. Really like the culture and how everything is overwhelming and different. That's it's. I was really like unprepared. I also thought it would be like easier before coming there, and some aspects really surprised me.
Oh, I see, I see. What shocked you the most? What was the biggest surprise when you arrived there?
Let me think. It was probably how the airport worked. So it was kind of surprising that you come to this airport, and this airport is actually it's a little bit like anarchy there. So this one guy picked me up, or actually like waited for me, but I've never seen him before. It's he was taking my luggage, and he was going like to the customs with me, and then he demanded money, but I never asked him to help me, but he kept insisting. So I told him, "No, man, I'm poor. I don't have any money for you. Are you crazy?" And he was kind of like laughing about it. He was thinking that I was just joking. And then Otabu, the coordinator from Nigeria, came with his car, and he was saying like, "Okay, this is the car you're going to go in. Go sit there." So I sat there in this car, and there was Otabu with his girlfriend, a big, tall, black guy, and he was saying, "Yeah, yeah, give him some money." But I was just, I kept insisting, I'm not going to give him any money. I'm not from a rich country. It's crazy. Like he didn't tell me at all. But actually, like he spent some time with me and he helped me go through the customs. But I thought like it's kind of weird that I give him money. So then he closed the windows. He started to swear and he went off. And Otabo said then to me like, "Good that you didn't give him any money. Like the Germans gave him like 50 euros, and so like he must be already rich." so I don't have to feel bad. But Otabo had actually to say that I should give him money, so he wouldn't judge him afterwards, because they have like kind of like a deal or something.
So the road there was quite interesting. Did you prepare for the road? Like something special? Not just pack your bags, but maybe something extra? Learn some phrases from the language, or
No, nothing. Really nothing. It's really hard to understand the Nigerian English. It's very different. It's a very deep language, like from the how they say it. The voice is very deep, and it's if you aren't used to it, you're not going to understand very well. Like I understood maybe like 70% what Otabo actually told me the whole time. But yeah, he's a good guy. I like him. But it's really it's impossible. Also, like they speak this one pidgin language they have, which is Nigerian pidgin. It comes like bases are in English, but the grammar is somehow from the I don't actually know from where the grammar is, but they say things like different from some African dialects or something. And yeah, so they speak Nigerian pidgin and they speak like regular English that is also very difficult. And there's also like so there's actually very few places where you can learn it. Also, there's one application for Nigerian pidgin that I discovered, but that was like deep into my internship already. So, but I know like some phrases.
in which conditions did you live there?
So the conditions, I lived there in two places. I've got basically two internships instead of one. And so we first went to Benin City, which is actually it's the city. Maybe you know if you are like a history nerd, where the Benin Empire was, which they had like some contacts with the Portuguese back in the 15th century and were pretty advanced people before the English raised their settlements. And yeah, so I was there at a student dormitory, but we were kind of unfortunate with the guys there because it was in times they they protested something. I don't even know what they protested, but basically how the protest worked was that they just turned off the water and the electricity, uh, and so the school won't work. So the government has to do something. But if you like turn off the electricity and also the water, some things get worse, right? Because those things get broken. They get even more broken. So even after the protest was over, they couldn't fix those things because they were so long like off. So it was impossible for us to have water and electricity. We had maybe a few days, and that was like for 1 hour or 2 hours. I don't remember that much. But then when I got allocated to the another university, which was near Lagos, it was in the Ogun State, and that was a private university owned by the richest pastor in the world. And yeah, it was a Catholic university. They had their own electricity there. They had their own water source there. It was self-sufficient, And yeah, this place was much better to live there. But yeah, but I didn't like it as much. The people were very strict there because of the Christianity thing, and yeah, it was much more boring than the student dormitory in Benin. So I would have rather come back like to the worst conditions just because it was more free and more fun.
But how did it help you professionally? Do you think it helped you in a way of maybe you learned something new or worked on something interesting?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things it helped me the most was to see art as it is, visual art to be precise, with with a different scope, right? Because we, as Europeans, see everything very Eurocentric. We don't look at what other cultures have made. For example, the our abstract painters like Picasso were inspired by African art, and because African art is very in its form, it's very like grotesque and use all these abstract shapes. So it kind of like influenced our art now currently, but we don't look anymore back into African arts and like. I mean, with African art, I also mean this tribal art as a whole. And for example, they use in architecture, they use a lot of like symbolism, right? If they have a church, they do the ground plan. They do in a cross shape, and also if they I saw one project of a student. He had like a project of a library, and it was in the shape of a book. So I kind of applied this principle of this very strong symbolism now in my current practice. For example, I did a war museum, and this war museum I shaped into the form of a bullet, right? And it was a very basic shape, but it's also very modern, right? But you kind of open up to like a different concept of viewing things and how to actually create things from where you can actually draw the inspiration from. So that helped my practice, I think, a lot.
And what was your job there?
So my job there was to actually do a research paper on social housing, but that was kind of difficult to do. At Benin University, at the Faculty of Architecture there, it was actually impossible to do because I was there at the time of the rain season. That means that the whole time, like it's 3 months of just rain. And since the roads aren't paved and there's no like system for the sewage, if it rains for a whole day, it's just flooded. So people didn't go to work there because it was impossible to even come to that place, and also because didn't have any electricity because of the protest. We couldn't use our PCs, so we didn't do anything there. But I learned a lot about Benin art and Benin architecture by speaking to my professor. And yeah, so I was just sitting there and speaking to all those people there. But when I came to Covenant University, which was the Christian university nearby Lagos, I actually did a research paper on social housing. Yeah, and this paper, yeah, I actually wrote about how social housing works in Europe, because social housing as a concept doesn't work in Africa, but it would very much be needed because they have such a high population growth, and really so many slums are being so many slums spawn in the region, and they really would need to have a form of social housing. But like looking back at it, I don't think to use a European model for social housing is really effective. I think that there needs to be a different way of developing social housing in Africa, because the circumstances are very, very different, and also the history is very different. And yeah, like I don't know if you know something about architecture, but there's this one architect in South America, and its studio is called Elemental, and they developed like as a social housing unit for the for the Latin populace there. So it has like a different concept, so the people adapt to it easier. I could go into detail how it works, but I don't think it's important to talk about that now. So,
Or what can you say about their universities? Are they completely different from the European ones that we are used to? How they differ for a average European person?
well, to begin with the dormitory, it's what the dormitory we have in Slovakia, but instead of 3 people, 6 people live there, and yeah, so the conditions are worse there for the standard of living. And yeah, basically how the school works, I cannot really say about, I cannot really speak about the classes because I didn't attend so many of them. But what I have noticed is that they use a lot of they have a lot of basis in Christianity, and that means I've seen the first lecture in architecture class, and my supervisor, who's the main head, the biggest professor there, started to explain, yeah, why how we started to use shelters, and then we developed from the shelters to houses, and it was very like Christianity based. He began with Adam and Eve and how they looked at nature, and then their son Cain. Uh, I don't know who killed who. If it was Cain and Abel, I'm not that good. I'm not that good in biblical stories, but everything was based in Christianity. Everything from science. So if there was an explanation for something scientific, it had its ground in a biblical story, which was pretty interesting.
Did you go on any adventures there? Any trips during the weekends, maybe?
Yeah, we did. Our supervisor, Otabo, we went on trips with him. Uh, we were on this one trip. It was like in the like more the inner part of Nigeria, and it was a village. And this village, like the surroundings of that village, were very mountainous, and there was this one place where there used to be like a community. Actually, it was a tribal kingdom, and if you went up to the mountains, it was a little bit like African Machu Picchu, right? You went through this very difficult path, and was the elevation of that was very high, and we went through a little bit of like this jungle, and then there were like these mud buildings and a lot of those statues, of those African statues, and back in the day, um, like a tribal society lived there who escaped from the main civilization because they were hunted down by another tribe. And yeah, they lived there for, I don't know if it was 1,000 years or 1,500 years, a very long time until the British came, and those British also established on that mountain a kind of like a church, like a building where they converted those Africans, and it was very interesting to see that. And yeah, and also we went then to the main city, the biggest city, which is Lagos. Lagos is pretty crazy. It has, I don't know if it has 20 million people in there, and probably even more. And yeah, it's different. There you can feel the vibe in Lagos city is totally different from any other city. Like people really try to hustle, and they work very hard, and they just try to make it big. And you see a lot of differences, yeah, in class. Like the lower class, they live in the worst slums. One of them is well, maybe you know that it's called Makoko. It's like the biggest slum, which is on top of the sea. Yeah, and you can see that from the highway, and yeah, that's really a sight to see how actually big it is and in what shape. And then you have parts Lagos, like I think it's called Banana Island and Victory Island, where you have like buildings that resemble ours, right? And there is where the higher class lives, and even the prices there are much higher than in our capital city of Bratislava, and the differences are pretty high.
And did you make lots of friends, at least acquaintances, who taught you more about their culture?
Yeah, it's this is actually a good question because people there see very different. Since you are white, you're kind of a celebrity because most people see white people only in television, and you know how television is. If you watch Hollywood, if you had if you made the European image just from Hollywood, or like the European, I mean the Western culture images from Hollywood, we would think, yeah, everybody is totally rich, a badass, yeah, you know, James Bond and stuff, and there's all these great people, and that's what they also think, like the people that the regular citizens. So they treat you kind of like a celebrity. Everybody wants to take a picture with you, and they shout at you, Oimbo, Ibo, which means white man in their local tongue. And yeah, so it's actually pretty hard to make really friends there because everybody wants to be your friend, and you know those people. It isn't very trustworthy because they want to use you, you know, for the clout basically, and put you on their Instagram and on their Facebook page. So you know you cannot have really like honest friends, but of course there were some people that were absolutely amazing, and maybe I also live well because the people that were actually cool, you know, like regular people that would actually like to be a good friend and being honest and it's not useful for cloud. They were probably too shy, you know, to approach you and take a picture of you. So maybe I just didn't meet so many people. But the ones that I met and were good, they were just like us, and they are also the same problems as we do, and yeah, we spoke about yeah how our countries work, and if if Slovakia had yeah nuclear energy. One of them asked me, and I said yeah, and he was in awe, basically because Russia promised them to get nuclear energy there, but there was a corruption and it didn't work in the end, which is pretty sad. But yeah, yeah, so that would be my answer for this question.
Were they curious about our culture as well? What did you tell them?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They are first thing they always asked me was how many people live in Slovakia, and when I told them it's 5 million people, they were extremely surprised. And Benin City had 2 million people, but that's just a smaller scale city in Nigeria, and as I said, Lagos has 20 million or more. So they were like joking, like everybody knows everybody. I was saying, yeah, like if someone is going to steal your house, steal stuff at your house, yeah, it's probably your cousin. Yeah, and they found that very funny. And yeah, they were also very surprised that we have electricity all the time. Yeah, and they kind of respected Slovakia a little bit more than they did Germany because I told them that Slovakia was in the Eastern Bloc, and you know that whole stuff with the Soviet Union and Russia. Because back in the day, actually, the Soviet Union helped them a lot to gain independence as colonial states. But yeah, but that was kind of like difficult to explain to some, especially the younger generation, because they see Europe as one place and everybody is the same. So yeah, that's that. Yeah.
Oh wow, seems like nobody wants to live in Slovakia, but so many people want to live in Nigeria. Who would have thought? Yeah, now to the question of stereotypes. What
Mm.
stereotypes did you have before you came there? And what stereotypes did people have about you? Tell us a bit more about that.
Mhm. Stereotypes. Well, if I had, I don't know if I had really a stereotype because I've seen a little bit of the world before, so I knew like that not every African is poor or such like funny stereotypes. No, that wasn't me, but maybe I have to think about this question.
Take your time.
Maybe we can start with the stereotypes they had about me. So one of the stereotypes, the biggest one, is that you are extremely rich. And yeah, it's kind of true if you compare it to them. But yeah, of course, but you are not that rich that you're going to give out the whole the community money. And yeah, and they also thought that everyone would speak English, especially the younger generation thought that. They were surprised that I didn't know the prayers in English, and I had to explain to them that actually, like in Nigeria, you have many languages. That's the same for Europe. That yeah, it's not everything is the UK and Germany, and yeah, so that could be one of the biggest stereotypes they thought.
Was there a moment during your internship when you told yourself, well, Jakub, that was not a good idea to come here?
Yeah, I had some of these moments because I took anti-malaria, and maybe some of you know this, but anti-malaria, those drugs are actually cause a lot of mental problems. Like those are the side effects, and one of those side effects was depression and hallucinations and stuff. And I think I kind of got depression from that. It was like the first weeks were really hard on my psyche. And yeah, I just felt absolutely destroyed. I felt awful, really. But when I stopped taking the anti-malaria pills, it was much better. Or maybe I just got used to it. I don't really know, but I think it was the anti-malaria things.
Would you go to Nigeria once more?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, after I came back from Nigeria, like the first months, I was like, wow, man, it was actually kind of difficult to adapt. But now I would go back, of course, and I would also go to to other places in Africa because it's very authentic in a way. When you are in Africa and you come back, you start to appreciate things a lot more. Like how I said in the beginning, I always said, yeah, I shouldn't complain, uh, but I kind of didn't mean it. Like honestly, it wasn't what I really thought. But now I am really glad that I have electricity the whole time, and that it isn't just 2 hours or 4 hours per day, and that I have water that I can flush my toilet and stuff. But it's good to go back and to appreciate the other aspects of African culture, like the music is amazing and how the people actually behave and how they dance and the belief system is very interesting. You just see another worldview, and that can be really helpful. So yeah, of course, I would go back.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking a bit about Nigeria. I'm sure everybody enjoyed, all 5 people who watch us. See ya.
The world is going to watch us, man. Yeah, thank you also. Yeah, have a nice day. Bye.